Welcome to the third dimension. The Houthi rebels have announced they will limit their attacks in the Red Sea to Israeli-linked vessels, provided a fragile Gaza ceasefire is fully implemented. The Houthi announcement marks a shift in the group's maritime campaign, which has disrupted critical global shipping routes since November 2023. Yet, despite the Houthi pledge, the shipping industry remains wary. The ceasefire between Israel and the Palestinian resistance, which entered its third day on Tuesday, remains tenuous, said the head of the maritime security. In the meantime, with President Donald Trump sworn in on Monday, observers warn this could complicate the situation, as Trump has indicated he may reapply the Foreign Terrorist Organization designation on the Houthis, a classification that President Joe Biden revoked. Such a move, according to observers, could reignite Houthi attacks and exacerbate the conflict further. To impact this topic, joins me from the United States, Dr. Sherifa Zuhur. Dr. Zuhur is a research scholar of the modern Middle East and author of 21 books and many articles. She was a professor at the Strategic Studies Institute, U.S. Army War College, and other universities. She has contributed to numerous governmental and defense studies work groups, a NATO counterterrorism work group, and a commission on Yemen. Dr. Sherifa, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. Now, almost 471 days of relentless Israeli war on Gaza, but at last we had a ceasefire. The question is, how would you describe the ceasefire in Gaza in terms of easing the tensions in the Middle East?
No doubt it has eased the brutal massacre that has been ongoing in front of us, but the problem is the entire world saw that nobody would stop this massacre. So this deal could have been achieved in June. It could have been achieved earlier. Almost exactly the same terms were offered earlier. So now much of Gaza is obliterated. In his statement, the spokesperson for Hamas recognized the Houthis, Ansar Allah, as an ally of the resistance and the sacrifices made by the Palestinian people. Will the ceasefire hold is the first question. Even today, there is an offensive in Jenin, so more will happen in the West Bank. Netanyahu's government is still in place, and there's a lot to see, especially with the new administration being equally, although differently, in support of new U.S. administration being equally, although differently, in support of Israel.
Yeah.
So I think the ceasefire was very important, as is the announcement that the Houthis will only attack Israeli vessels or flagged vessels or suspected Israeli vessels in some cases. I don't think the problem with the global supply chain will be solved that easily, because there are many companies that don't want to risk this situation, and it is an extension of Iran's maritime policy and attacks on vessels in any case. So that is not all over yet, nor do we know how the Trump administration's policy on Yemen will be shaped.
We will come to this a little bit later, Dr. Sherifa. Okay, if we could just narrow down the discussions now on Yemen and what the Houthis are doing on the Red Sea, Dr. Sherifa. And as you have indicated that the Houthis made an announcement that they would limit their attacks to only the Israeli vessels. Now, first of all, what do you make out as an expert in the Middle East and in Yemen, Dr. Sherifa? What do you make out of this announcement, the Houthi announcement, and should we believe them?
We should believe them. They have made the same statement several times in several different ways. That these attacks are linked to the attacks on Gaza and will cease when they cease. Similarly, I believe the attempts by missiles to hit targets within Israel, which are, after all, not very effective because of the Iron Dome and other defenses possessed by Israel. However, that this is, not only an action by the Houthis, but a symbolic demonstration of their commitment to the resistance. And that is not going to change. Therefore, it matters very much, what the Israelis do next, and what the Americans do next vis-a-vis Yemen and Iran.
Okay. Now, Dr. Sherifa, in the same context, you said that the Houthis won't stop their attacks, in fact. And let me here bring a kind of UN panel of experts. They revealed in one of their reports that the Houthis are also doing the Red Sea attacks not only for or to show support with the Palestinians, but also because the group was extorting ship owners out of hundreds of thousands of dollars for each safe transit through Yemen, and estimated that the Houthis are earning about $2 billion per year from security fees. So what do you make out of this?
I think, the entire effect of the disruption to trade has impacted certain countries more than others. So, namely Egypt, right? And Egypt is in turn, its interests are advanced in certain ways by the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia. And so it's a very complex situation in which, as we know, a peace process for Yemen was supposed to be initiated, but it has been on hold because of these attacks. And in times of war and conflict, whether it's close to being finished or not close to being finished, there are always many parties who benefit from the continuation of the conflict. Although when we look logically, we want all such conflict to cease.
Yeah.
There's so much going on. There is this disruption, and there also has been the ability of the Houthis to manufacture more weapons inside of Yemen.
Yes.
So that they are less dependent on other sources, and their resolve to control, certainly at least the north of Yemen, has not ceased. That remains.
Yeah. Okay. Now, as Trump, Dr. Sherifa, if we could move to Trump's historic comeback to the White House and his legacy, okay, towards the Houthis, okay. In his inauguration speech yesterday, Trump said, I quote, "Our power will stop all wars and bring a new spirit of unity to a world that has been angry, violent, and totally unpredictable." End of quote. In light of this, Dr. Sherifa, and in your opinion, what would be Trump's approach to the Houthis?
Trump's approach so far, since we don't know, mirrors the Americans have had no policy, no real policy on Yemen. Unless we go back some years when they were very concerned about the stability of Yemen, if we go all the way back before the revolution. But since then, they have had a reactive policy, not a formative policy, not a policy in which it is stated we would like to see Yemen do X. So I think Trump envisions himself as a deal maker, or he projects this grand businessman who will twist arms until countries agree to stop conflicts or threaten them so that they would agree before. And he very likely will, Rubio wants to redesignate the Houthis as a foreign terrorist organization. But that alone is not a policy. So policy would mean whether they are so designated or not, trying to revamp the peace process, or the United States might try to initiate some kind of offensive in Iran, including regime change, since this administration is very close to the supporters of the son of the Shah. And that, I think, would be a big mistake. That would be sort of the grandest effort.
Yeah.
Trump may not be likely to do that because he wants to be successful. Whatever he sets out to do, he wants it to be a success. And I think also he is receptive to what Saudi Arabia wants at this point, and believes he can arm twist Saudi Arabia into a peace agreement with Israel in a short time, which I also think is unlikely. But these are things that he said. So we have a collection of things that have been said by his new Secretary of State and his new national security advisors and himself about the new Secretary of Defense. Well, we shall see. But So he could initiate policies on a spectrum of extremely strong and disruptive to maritime trade and peace in the Gulf, which would be to work much harder on a peace solution for Yemen.
Yeah, okay. In terms of these interceptive airstrikes, Dr. Sherifa, do you think Trump will continue these airstrikes on Houthi military capabilities?
I think he will do so on a one-for-one basis. If they attack something, so let's say they say, okay, we're observing a ceasefire, but now we're going to, I don't know, oppose incursions into the West Bank, which I don't think they will in Tel Aviv. I think there will be a return attack. If there is another attack on an American vessel, I think there will be a return attack. If there is not, then, the issue is sometimes vessels have been attacked, they're not Israeli flagged, but it turns out that there's some connection in the ownership. I think they may not return attack.
Okay. Now, going through your professional career, Dr. Sherifa, I found an interesting point there where you had a commission on Yemen. Long time back. Would you tell us more about this? What kind of commission was it?
I was a member of this commission. There were other members of the commission.
When was that, Dr. Sherifa?
What?
When was that?
This was in 2009.
Oh, very close.
And I was invited to be on this commission by the former American ambassador to Saudi Arabia. And the concern at the time was the utter devastation in water resources in Yemen and a long list of necessities that were never attended to.
Okay.
Because of what? And the revolution. And it was a very interesting group to be part of, as there were individuals who know far more about Yemen than I do. And also because of the interest of the United States at that time in the repositioning of Al-Qaeda to Yemen from Saudi Arabia.
Okay. Now, building or reflecting on that experience, Dr. Sherifa, at least you had a kind of a profile on the Yemeni society and the dynamics of Yemeni people. Building on this, Dr. Sherifa, and looking at the current situation today, what are the peace prospects in Yemen?
Okay, the good news is that a process already began. And there was some kind of an effort at defining a roadmap and a list of what would need to have to be done. And it's huge because of the health crisis, because of the inability to deliver aid in various areas, because of the landmines, because of the impact on children as being part of and parties in this conflict, and disruption in education. So it's a huge, huge task. The good news is that Saudi Arabia had agreed to end its war on Yemen. It had agreed that its goals in destroying the Houthis were not met, could not be met.
Yeah.
So I think any peace process probably has to acknowledge that they are not going to be destroyed. And this is where I worry about some members of the new Trump administration. It may look like Hamas has been hobbled or Hezbollah has been hobbled, okay? And certainly Bashar al-Assad is gone, who was an ally of Iran. But the Houthis haven't been hobbled, and their aspirations are, very strong. And they have electricity in Sana'a. There isn't electricity in Aden, or on and off there isn't. So the very weak internationally recognized government of Yemen has many, many items on its plate, and may have to be part of another entity in order to engage in a peace process, to be seen as effective. So it has kind of held together because the members are opposed to the Houthis, but they don't agree on many other issues.
You're, as if you're suggesting that the infighting between the internationally recognized government has, in a way, empowered the Houthis.
Not only that, it is this period of non-progress has allowed the internationally recognized government of Yemen to stay, and some entities to benefit, as people do when conflict situations continue. And that's not good. That's not good for Yemen. And I do think that many parties are more pragmatic than they were, let's say, in the Bush era. When we would hear people, saber rattling and saying that the Houthis could be all gotten rid of, and that there's nothing to them but Iranian support, but there's quite a lot to them besides Iranian support. So
but despite this, if I may interrupt you, Dr. Sherifa, despite all of this, and the gains of the Houthis, but in the end of the day, they are not willing to share powers with other Yemenis. Let's remember that they made the coup in 2014 and they ousted a legal government.
They did. They ousted a legal government. After all, then they, assassinated Saleh. They did so many things. They have a program with which many others disagree. I mean, a social program and a religious program and so on. So I think the peace process is going to resemble power sharing with the Houthis. Not that they will be democratic members of some democratic process. No. And I'm sure that they will demand control over territory, and part of the issue will be educating those actors who want to advance this process in knowing, for example, that not everyone in the north of Yemen supports the Houthis, which they don't know, or deciding on a line. What will they control? What will they not control? Will there be two governments again? I mean,
Yeah.
Yes.
If you would like to end this interview with one statement or one message, Dr. Sherifa, do you think the Houthis will be committed to peace?
I think they will be committed to peace if they get what they want, which is a commitment to what they want more than to peace. If they receive control over over certain areas, yes.
Yeah, and what they want is maximalist in the terms of the U.S. envoy to Yemen, Tim Lindeking, that the demands of Houthis are maximalist and can't be met or even matched. With this remark, we come to the end of this conversation. Dr. Sherifa, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for talking to Yemen Today TV.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all for this time. See you next week with a new edition of The Third Dimension.